Hi, I'm Greg Crawford with the Friday News Dump, brought to you by World News Trust. Republican attacks on the 78-year-old entitlement program called Social Security are, as is pretty much anything that comes out of a conservative's mouth, bald-faced lies. As they want to do with every other government-administered program that benefits the majority of Americans, it is their fervent desire to privatize it. Which is to say that a very vocal minority in Congress want to abrogate the will of the people, whose name they so love to invoke when it suits their purposes. However, when it comes to actually doing something that benefits those same people, well, that's another story. All of a sudden the people become takers, parasites in the words of their bitch goddess of pathological selfishness, Ayn Rand. In typical fashion, the arguments they offer to justify this are, altogether now, bald-faced lies. The fact is that the weasels of Wall Street want to get their slimy paws on all that Social Security trust fund money so they can squander it to enrich themselves while they impoverish the rest of us. To achieve this, they call upon the politicians that they have bought and paid for through thinly veiled bribes euphemistically referred to as campaign contributions. But first, let's review a brief history of Social Security. The Social Security Act of 1935 was established in the depths of the Great Depression by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. It was all part of the New Deal, which was FDR's comprehensive plan to pull the nation out of the Depression by providing work for the millions of unemployed who were victims of the reckless gambling of investment bankers, real estate and commodities speculators, and con artists of every stripe that brought about the 1929 crash of the stock market. Sound familiar? Social Security is paid for by payroll taxes taken out of everyone's paycheck. These funds are deferred wages held in escrow by Social Security for people to draw upon when they retire. Everyone pays withholding on every dollar they earn. Unless, of course, they are among the wealthy elite who only pay withholding on the first $110,000 of their income. Whatever millions they may earn over and above that are not subject to the payroll tax. Sound fair to you? I didn't think so. That seething furnace of malice, retired Senator Alan Simpson called Social Security a cash cow with 300 million teats. Nice imagery there, Al. But that is, to extend his bovine reference, just so much bullshit. It utterly sucks. Okay, I'll stop. But Simpson is being disingenuous, to put it mildly. He thinks the Social Security Trust Fund is the government's money, not ours. Like all conservatives, he thinks in totalitarian terms, and he secretly loathes the very thought of true democracy. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be a Republican. He is either an ignorant old fool or a conniving liar, or most likely both. It is our money, Simpson, not the government's. And the government was never supposed to be a separate entity answerable to no one, as conservatives and liberals alike have come to envision it. It is, by law, a group of people elected to represent the interests of their friends and neighbors in their home states or congressional districts. They are not there to represent the interests of corporation or banksters intent on plundering our treasury for their own enrichment. In short, we are the government. We should not be afraid of the government. They should be afraid of us. Unless, of course, they're doing their jobs as they're supposed to do, then there's no problem. But then that's not the case now, is it? In 1983, Congress established a Social Security tax increase that was supposed to be set aside to cover the retirement of the baby boomer generation, of which I am a proud member. Set aside means the thieving rats at the top of the political food chain were supposed to keep their grimy paws off it. Yeah, right. The rapacious monsters entrusted with the protection of our retirement funds were so intent on robbing us blind that Congress had to pass the Budget Enforcement Act of 1990, which explicitly forbade the inclusion of Social Security trust fund monies in general budget calculations. Fat lot of good that did. Bush 41 and Slick Willie Clinton raided the trust fund, but Bush the Lesser went to afterburners when he drained it to pay for tax breaks for the rich. And then a war in Iraq that he started on totally false pretenses. Of course, he and others like him still walk free, while the people brave enough to expose their evil crimes rot in jail. Go figure. In 2004, a retired economics professor named Alan W. Smith, Ph.D., published a book entitled The Looting of Social Security. In it, he detailed how every penny of the Social Security Reserve Fund of $1.5 trillion has been stolen, to be replaced by those running our government with essentially worthless IOUs that no one had any intention of repaying. So if we, the people, were to demand in no uncertain terms that the government cease and desist dipping into our piggy bank, repay everything they've already purloined, and require the rich to pay their fair share of payroll tax, even if their income is derived from investments, why then Social Security would be perfectly solvent far into the future. But the banksters on Wall Street live by Charles Koch's infamous quote, "I just want my share, and that's all of it." And they mean it. So if we don't smarten up and expose their perfidy, we'll be left with nothing but the orange jumpsuits we wear as we trudge single file to our assigned workstations in the continent-sized prison the corporatists have planned for us. However, those corporatists control nearly every means of communicating that message, and that's a public service announcement they ain't about to make. But nearly means that their control is not absolute. It is possible to alert those intelligent enough to grasp the importance of what we're saying. We'll have to go up against the likes of Limbaugh, Coulter, and the rest of the vermin that try to shout down reason, but it's high time somebody stood up to them, don't you think?